This newscast is brought to you by Qberg, Pittsburgh's source for LGBTQ plus news and community information. Learn more about Qberg by visiting their website, qberg.com. That's QBURGH.com. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering at this hour. The Education Department's Office for Civil Rights is best known for enforcing the right to disability services across America's schools. But under President Donald Trump, it's taking a frontline role in his political battles. Trump appointees have halted thousands of pending cases while they open new investigations aligned with the president's campaign promises. Career staffers have been sidelined and pressured to quit, and those who remain are being ordered to refocus priorities on anti-Semitism, transgender-related issues, and anti-DEI complaints. A memo Friday from the Civil Rights Office chief announced anti-Semitism cases are now the top priority, taking aim at colleges where pro-Palestinian protests brought accusations of anti-Jewish bias. That followed a decision to cut $400 million in federal money going to Columbia University, where on Saturday immigration officials arrested a Palestinian activist who was involved in leading student protests. We'll have more on that in just a moment. Hanging in the balance are the types of cases the office traditionally has focused on: students with disabilities who need services they aren't getting, or students facing harassment tied to their skin color. It's normal for new presidential administrations to pause civil rights cases while they get acclimated, but this transition brought a longer and more rigid freeze than others. Trump officials lifted the freeze for disability cases on February 20th, and last week, new Education Secretary Linda McMahon said all cases could resume as normal. During Trump's first month in office, the Office for Civil Rights resolved about 50 cases, according to a staffer who spoke on the condition of anonymity for fear of retribution. By comparison, the office resolved more than 3,000 complaints in the same window of Trump's first term and almost 500 under former President Joe Biden. Even the most urgent cases, which are traditionally granted exceptions, sat idle during the freeze. Staff lawyers were told not to respond to outside calls or emails, leaving families in the dark. If you didn't think that this country is now governed by a regime, think again. When President Donald Trump gave his joint address to Congress last week, he boasted that in his first few weeks back in the White House, he had brought free speech back to America. But First Amendment advocates say they've never seen freedom of speech under attack the way it has been in Trump's second term. Trump's Republican administration has threatened Democratic members of Congress with investigation for criticizing conservatives, pulled federal grants that include language it opposes, sanctioned law firms that represent Trump's political opponents, and arrested the organizer of student protests that Trump criticized as anti-Semitic and anti-American. Your right to say something depends on what the administration thinks of it, which is no free speech at all, said Will Creeley, legal director of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, a nonpartisan First Amendment group. Trump, on Monday, took credit for the arrest by immigration agents of Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia University graduate, student, and legal permanent resident who helped lead pro-Palestinian protests there. Khalil's lawyer says that the government is targeting him for his activism and to discriminate against particular viewpoints. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, aka Little Marco, said Wednesday that the administration will revoke the visas or green cards of supporters of Hamas, which the U.S. has designated a terrorist organization, and denied that the policy threatened the First Amendment. This is not about free speech, Rubio told reporters in Shannon, Ireland. This is about people that don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with. No one has a right to a student visa, and no one has a right to a green card. A federal judge earlier this week ordered immigration officials not to remove Khalil from the country while his case is sorted out. This is the first arrest of many to come. We know there are more students at Columbia and other universities across the country who have engaged in pro-terrorist, anti-Semitic, anti-American activity, and the Trump administration will not tolerate it. Trump wrote. Way to go, Pumpkin Fuhrer. You've crushed the First Amendment. In other education news, we have this story from Washington State. One student asked a search engine, "Why does my boyfriend hit me?" Another threatened suicide in an email to an unrequited love. A gay teen opened up in an online diary about struggles with homophobic parents, writing they just wanted to be themselves. In each case, and thousands of others, surveillance software powered by artificial intelligence immediately alerted Vancouver public school staff in Washington State. Vancouver and many other districts around the country have turned to technology to monitor school-issued devices 24/7 for any signs of danger as they grapple with a student mental health crisis and the threat of shootings. The goal is to keep children safe, but these tools are raising serious questions about privacy and security, as proven when Seattle Times and the Associated Press reporters inadvertently received access to almost 3,500 sensitive, unredacted student documents through a records request about the district's surveillance technology. Vancouver school staff and anyone else with links to the files could read everything. Firewalls or passwords didn't protect the documents, and student names were not redacted, which cybersecurity experts warned was a massive security risk. The monitoring tools often help counselors reach out to students who might have otherwise struggled in silence, but the Vancouver case is a stark reminder of surveillance technology's unintended consequences in American schools. In some cases, the technology has outed LGBTQ+ children and eroded trust between students and school staff, while failing to keep schools completely safe. Folks, assuming the regime leaves office in 2029, we still have 1,410 days until the next inauguration day. That's the news for this hour. We have a tough road ahead, folks. You can follow all the latest news updates by listening to PEP Radio on the Live 365 app. Download it today. Now let's get back to more music here on PEP Radio.